Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning everyone. Today we will be discussing the theme of equality and also human rights. So this theme will be focusing on how these rights are still being violated in different parts of the world. To begin, let us reflect on an important historical foundation that I have read online. In 1948, the United Nations introduced the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This document clearly states that all human beings are born free and also equal in dignity and rights. This idea may sound simple, but it is actually very powerful. It means that no matter who we are, which is our religion, our race, gender, or nationality, we all deserve the same level of respect and also protection in our life. However, the reality today shows that this ideal is not fully allowed. So, yes, what do you think, Anisha?
So I think that even though laws and international agreement exist, but many people around the world still experiences inequality, violence, and injustice. So what is more concerning is that these violations are not always obvious. Sometimes they happen quietly in homes, workplace, or communities, so where they are harder to detect. This shows that human rights are not just theoretical concepts, but they are deeply connected to people's everyday lives and experiences. So what did you think?
Okay, so as Dania and Alicia has spoken earlier, so today we will explore three major issues that clearly demonstrate this gap between principle and also reality. So the first one is the Rohingya crisis. The second one is domestic violence in Malaysia, and the third one, the last one, is human trafficking. So as we go through each issue, we invite you to reflect on one key question, which is if human rights are universal, why are they still not equally protected for everyone? So I think we are going to move forward to the first part, which is the Rohingya cases.
Okay, so for the first crisis, which is the Rohingya crisis. So for the background and stateless, the Rohingya cases are a Muslim minority, a group who have lived for generations in Rakhine State, Myanmar. So, however, they are not recognized as citizens by the government. So, this is mainly due to the 1982 citizen laws, which exclude them from the list recognized ethnic groups. As a result, they are considered stateless. So being stateless is extremely serious because citizenship is the foundation of basic rights. So without it, people really cannot legally access education, healthcare, or even protection under the law. So in simple terms, it is like existing in a country but not being acknowledged as part of it. So the next part is discrimination and escalations. So because of this status, the Rohingya have faced long-term discriminations. They are restricted in their movement, meaning they cannot travel freely. They cannot travel to anywhere. So they also have limited access to jobs, education, which keeps many families in a cycle of poverty. So over time, these discriminations create tension and instability. So in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, the situation escalated when the military launched a violent crackdown. This event shows that how long-term discrimination, if ignored, and can eventually turn into large-scale violence and human rights crisis. And the third one, refugee crisis and human experience. As a result, more than 1 million Rohingya people were forced to flee their homes. So most of them escaped to Bangladesh, while other travels to countries just like Malaysia. However, these journeys are extremely dangerous. I think that many refugees travels by sea in overcrowded boats, often without enough food or water. Some do not survive the journey. This reminds us that refugees are not just statistics, they are individuals who risk everything simply to find safety. And for the living condition and long-term impact, even after reaching refugee camps, there are struggles to continue, such as living conditions are often overcrowded, with limited access to clean water, sanitation, and healthcare. This increases the risk of disease and poor health. So, I think that children are especially affected because many cannot attend school, which affect their future opportunities. Without education, they are more likely to remain trapped in poverty. So, in addition, that many refugees experience the emotional trauma from the violence and displacement they have faced. So, this can affect their mental health for years. And the last one, international response and limitations. In response, organizations such as UNHCR provide essential supports like food, shelter, and healthcare. However, the effort mainly address immediate needs. So the long-term issues such as citizenships, safety, and permanent settlement remain unresolved. So they show that while humanitarian aid is important, so it's not enough to fully solve the problem. And for the reflection and transition, I think that this crisis highlights how human rights can be denied when system fails to protect minority groups. So it also shows the importance of identity, belonging, and protections. So now let us move to an issue that is closer to our own society, which is domestic violence in Malaysia.
Okay, alright. Thank you, Alicia, for the nice explanation. Okay, so next I am going to explain and elaborate the case in Malaysia, which is domestic violence in Malaysia. So first, I am going to give the definition and the hidden nature of this case. So domestic violence is often misunderstood as only physical abuse. But however, under the Domestic Violence Act 1994, it includes emotional, psychological, sexual, and even financial abuse. This is very important because not all abuse leaves visible marks. Okay. So, for instance, emotional abuse, such as constant criticism or humiliation, can damage a person's confidence and mental health over time. Also, financial abuse can make victims dependent and unable to live. So next, I am going to explain the types and also effects of domestic violence. So there are several forms of domestic violence, including physical, verbal, emotional, sexual, and financial abuse, as I said before. So each type affects victims differently, but all have serious consequences. For example, I may say that verbal abuse may seem less severe, but repeated insults can deeply affect a person's self-esteem. Similarly, the financial abuse can trap victims in unhealthy relationship because they lack the resources to live the relationship. So this shows that domestic violence is complex and also affects both physical and emotional well-being. So in this explanation, I have some statistics and reality included. So in Malaysia, domestic violence remains as a serious issue. Over 7,000 cases were reported in 2024. However, the real number is likely higher than we expected because many cases go unreported. So, furthermore, about 75% of victims are women, and the most affected age group is between 26 to 35 years old. So this suggests that domestic violence often occurs during key stages of adult life when individuals are building families and careers in their life. So, for the case domestic violence, it also have the causes and the social factors. So there are several causes behind domestic violence. One major factor that I am going to say is the imbalance of power in relationships where one partner seeks control over the other. And furthermore, financial stress can also increase tension and conflict with households. Cultural beliefs also may discourage victims from speaking out, as abuse is sometimes seen as a private issue to some people. And also fear also plays a major role, which is victims may worry about retaliation or social judgment. And also I want to add more the challenges in addressing. So addressing domestic violence is challenging in this era. Many victims do not report abuse due to fear, shame, or even lack of awareness. They may also be gaps in protection, especially for individuals who are not legally married. And in addition, coordination between support services can sometimes be limited, so making it harder for victims to get help quickly as the domestic violence happen in their household. So, as we know that domestic violence is dangerous, we can make some efforts and we have to reflect ourselves. The Malaysian government provides support through shelters, counseling, and legal aid. But however, awareness is still important because people need to recognize the signs of abuse and know where to seek help. So actually, this issue, which is domestic violence, reminds us that human rights violations can happen in private space, everywhere, anytime, and even making them more difficult to identify and also address. So I think that's all from me about domestic violence, and I am going to pass it to Dania Patricia.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. So we discussed about domestic violence and also the Rohingya crisis. So right now, I'm going to talk about human trafficking. So human trafficking is one of the most serious violations of human rights. So it directly goes against the principles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So it involves exploiting individuals for profit and also often targets the most vulnerable group. So let's focus on three things. So first, it is human trafficking through forced labor. So according to the International Labour Organization, around 27.6 million people are trapped in forced labor globally. So these individuals may be forced to work long hours, under harsh conditions, or often without fair pay. So many cannot leave because of threats, debt, or lack of legal protection. So this creates a cycle of exploitation. So next, we are going to look on sex trafficking that will relate to the human trafficking also. So sex trafficking mainly affects women and also girls. So with the rise of digital platforms nowadays, traffickers can now easily reach victim more easily. By offering fake job opportunities or like relationships. So victims often suffer long-term emotional and also psychological effects, which can impact their lives and also their conditions even after they escape. So, and then next we have human trafficking in child trafficking. So child trafficking is especially concerning. So according to UNICEF, millions of children are affected each year. So these children lose access to education and also may suffer long-term trauma. This highlights how children are very particularly vulnerable when protection systems are weak. So let's reflect on how this human trafficking effects. So human trafficking shows that how inequality, poverty, and also lack of protection can make individuals vulnerable to exploitation. So it also reminds us that this issue is global and also requires the cooperation between countries. All three issues we have discussed share a very common theme, right? Yeah. So the failure to protect vulnerable individuals. So after we discuss all the things about human rights, I think we can sum up a conclusion from each of us, right? So I will go first. So in my conclusion, the Rohingya crisis by Alicia, and also domestic violence and also human trafficking all highlight ongoing human rights violations. What do you think, Alicia?
So I think this issue mainly affect vulnerable groups such as women, children, and displaced communities, and also they connected all of the humans.
Yes.
So it's kind of dangerous actually.
Yeah.
So what do you think is?
Okay, as for me, actually these cases they remind us that human rights must be actively protected and not just stated in laws. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So as individuals, we can contribute by raising awareness, supporting victims, and also promoting equality in our communities. So that's all from our discussion.
Yeah, I think that is the end of our discussion for today. But before that, I want to add more. I want to add
yes.
more on comment. I want to add some comments on these human rights cases, because I think that in this era we as we as a human need to take care of ourselves, and even as I said in my points up there earlier, that it's just not in Malaysia that we need to take to make the law enforcement stronger and whatnot, because these human cases can happen anywhere, globally. So for me, I think that in order to make these things decrease year by year, I think that we need to start it from home, because as we know that parents
It's the main factor.
yeah, is the main factor, when it's the main idol that their children can reflect, can mirror. So if the parents, the main root in the society, is actually not functioning well, so what will happen in the future for the future generation? So we as the one that have to make sure everything in a good track. And also I think that the school organization also have to take some
Take part.
initiatives,
Yes.
some initiatives to make like the campaign awareness about maybe for example sexual harassment or whatnot, because as the
They
social
often,
the school make this kind of campaign or whatnot, it will make the environment be more safer, and also they are acknowledged about this.
So I think I very agree with you. Is when I think back, I think that law in Malaysia especially need to be tightened, because when we look at the news right now, there are so many that news that about human rights happens in Malaysia, which include children's, women, men, all over the communities.
Yes. So actually,
Yeah.
I also agree with you guys. I think that even media social also play an important roles in this in this era. Yes, because nowadays news spread wildfire through the media social. You know, like Instagram, TikTok, and also Facebook.
Yes.
Those news need to be used in a good way, so that to spread about this human rights. So we all are the generations that need to raise an awareness among us, so that people can actually take that awareness as a way for them to get back on the track and just let human rights equal as it is. And also, I think when we look into my point before, we as women also need to be more cautious on these human rights issues, because nowadays there are a lot of issues about sex trafficking. So women need to be more careful, especially on media social. But no matter where it is, it is very important for us to be cautious all the time. Yeah, I think that's all that I can think right now.
Yes. What can I say more? Is that
Maybe sorry for interrupting.
It's okay.
So, but I think that social media really brings really good for awareness, because all the generation from children's what we call
Teenagers.
teenagers
Yes.
and all the communities can get the awareness, can spread the awareness in the social media. So,
Okay, so for my last comment, I think that for the conclusion, like all the cases that we have discussed earlier is actually very concerning, and all of us in our communities, our societies, and we ourselves need to actually take these things as a serious thing in life, because
it's really
it's
concerning,
really
right?
concerning, and in this era everything is possible. If that thing want to happen to you, it will happen. So in order to avoid that, to make sure everything is safer, to make our environment safer, we need to, like I say, educate our youngsters and also ourselves. And also I think that's all from me. Or if you guys want to end our video.
So I think that we have conclude everything and connect everything. So I think that's all from us, and thank you for hearing, and thank you so much.
That's all from us.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.